Wyoming Republican Senator John Barrasso was just reelected as vice chairman of the Senate Republican Conference and joins me now from Capitol Hill. Senator, so what happened? You guys are just too busy tomorrow?
I'm not sure what's up with the details of the scheduling, Andrea, but I'm interested in working with the president because he talked about earmarks. The Republican caucus just yesterday, our conference got together and said, no earmarks for the next 2 years. The Democrats, Harry Reid, said, oh, no, we still love those earmarks. Apparently, the Democrats haven't heard the message of cut the spending, cut this growth in government, get the deficit and the debt under control. It's fascinating to listen to what the tin ear is out there of the folks that just haven't heard the message from the voters.
Well, talking about the message from the voters, people want to see things done. We've got the deficit. We've got 2 wars going on, the START treaty roadblocked. There's certainly enough to talk about. So when the president invites a bipartisan group from Congress to come to the White House, why would Republicans say, we're too busy, let's reschedule it later after Thanksgiving?
Yeah, I don't know what happened on the House side with Speaker-elect Boehner. You may want to check with him on that. But I'm looking forward to working with the president on things like control of earmarks, which, as we know, is one of the gateway problems of the big spending problems in this country. We need to go toward a balanced budget amendment to the Constitution. That's what the Republicans voted for yesterday, cutting the size of government, getting spending down to 2008 levels. Those are all important things. And then when the president wants to work on clean coal technology, I'm for that. Nuclear energy, I'm for that. Increased trade, I'm for working with him on all those things.
What about START? I know you voted against it. You were one of the opponents. Now Senator Kyle has really thrown a roadblock up. Let me read you something from one of your, the former Wyoming Republican Senator Alan Simpson, this time not on the deficit, but on START. He wrote, "The modest reductions in Russian and U.S. nuclear stockpiles will leave the U.S. with a significant and flexible nuclear force. Nothing in the treaty constrains our ability to develop and deploy a robust missile defense system as our military planners see fit. The idea that this treaty somehow makes major concessions to the Russians on missile defense is just simply not true." And I think your vote was predicated on the fact that you thought it was weakening our ability on missile defense. What would you say to Senator Simpson on that?
Actually, he and I did talk about it personally. I will tell you, when you read the preamble to the START treaty, I think it does limit our missile defense. And it's not so much with the Soviets that I'm concerned about. I'm concerned about North Korea, Iran, different rogue states which may be developing nuclear weapons. We need a robust nuclear defense. We need to make sure we do the upgrades to our own nuclear capabilities. And we have to be concerned about rogue nations that come up with their own nuclear attack weapons. So my concerns for our country and for our own security go way beyond just the U.S.-Russia relationship, which is brought up in this treaty. It has to deal with our global defense, Andrea.
The argument, the counter-argument from the White House is that not voting for the START treaty is going to weaken the president's hand, the U.S. hand, with the Russians. It's going to strengthen Putin against Medvedev, who's been much easier to deal with. And in fact, the Russians are key players in helping us with Iran and with Afghanistan. How do you respond to that?
Well, I've been to Russia earlier this year, been to Moscow as well as St. Petersburg, visited with people there, met with them, looked to some of the area where nuclear arms are being disarmed there. And I believe in Ronald Reagan's approach of trust but verify.
But that's exactly the point, Senator. With all due respect, that's what the State Department says, that if you believe in trust and verify, this enables us to put people back on the ground there and verify what the Russians are doing, whereas right now we can't.
And I agree with that component of it, but not with the component that weakens our own missile defense against all enemies, not just the Soviet Union.
Senator, I wanted to ask you about Michael Steele, because while he hasn't said that he's running, he certainly is laying the groundwork for running for re-election. And now his top deputy has issued a blistering critique of the RNC financing. Do you think that he should be re-elected as Republican National Chairman going into 2012?
Well, the Republican National Committee will make that decision. That's not a role for the Senate or the House. We've just won 61 House seats, 6 Senate seats, had dinner with the 13 new Senate members. It's a very, very optimistic time for our country because we've heard the message of the American voters, which is cut the spending, try to lower the debt, which is awful, which is crippling us and future generations, get us back to work. That's what people want. That's what they talked about. Jobs, the economy, the debt, and the spending. That's where all of our efforts ought to be.
Thank you very much. Senator John Barrasso from Capitol Hill. Thanks, Senator.
Thanks, Andrea.